It is finally UFC 303 fight week, and this Saturday we are getting Ian Machado Garry versus Michael Venom Page, but that is not the fight that the fans should be looking forward to. We should be looking forward to Ian Machado Garry versus Colby Covington, but Colby Covington brutally ducked Ian Machado Garry like the beta male that he is, and I've been taking a victory lap recently regarding my Conor McGregor-Michael Chandler coverage over the past year and a half. And I figured, you know what? It is the perfect time to take a victory lap on this. And what do you know? Ian Machado Garry went on the MMA Hour today and brutally exposed Colby Covington for ducking him at UFC 303. So we're going to take a look at some clips of Colby Covington ruining his career in the lead up to UFC 303 and ducking the only fight that mattered and becoming irrelevant in the last 6 months. And we're also going to take a look at Ian Garry's interview on the MMA Hour, where he just destroys Colby Covington and breaks Colby Covington down to an absolute T. Now, I want to start off with this. Let's take a little bit of a victory lap. First off, how ironic is it that waiting till 2026 right here for the Chandler video? But that's not the videos I want to look at. I have this video right here. Colby Covington releases pathetic video, quotations call out of Ian Machado Garry, okay? There's one video right there. Here's the second video. Ian Machado Garry challenges Colby with unthinkable stipulation, and you have in the thumbnail, you know, ducking Garry with an arrow pointed at Colby. When I posted these videos and I told you guys, listen, don't get excited. Colby, this is his elaborate way of ducking Garry. He does not want the fight. I was telling people this, and people were saying, you just don't like Colby. You don't like Colby's political beliefs, which I'm not even sure exactly what his political beliefs are, but you don't like his political beliefs, so you're just a Garry fanboy, and you don't like Colby because of this and that. And people were telling me that I was making up a narrative about Colby ducking Garry just because I have a bias against Colby Covington. That was at least the theory, which made absolutely no sense. Again, even if you don't like somebody, how do you benefit by breaking something down and then inevitably looking dumb if you're wrong? So I just want to point that out. These videos clearly pointed out. A lot of people understood. A lot of people who watch my channel understood exactly what Colby was doing. But there was a lot of people saying, you just don't like Colby. You just don't like Colby. And it was so obvious to see this a mile away. I mean, this was the post-fight presser at UFC 296, all where Colby Covington really started to ruin his career. I mean, he had hidden witness protection, got gifted a title shot because of Dana White privilege, and then he absolutely shit the bed against Leon Edwards. Shit the bed. And there's a couple hilarious clips from this. I'm only going to show you two. But I could already tell this guy was ducking any prominent fight after his loss at UFC 296 because his confidence was shaking. He's older. He only fights 40-year-olds or almost 40-year-olds on losing streaks. And this is what he had to say at the post-fight presser for 296.
There's a reason the front window is bigger than the rear view. So, you know, it's in the past now. I'm not going to worry about the past. I'm going to focus on what's next, you know. There's a guy that's been talking a lot of shit to me in the media, you know, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. You know, everybody thinks he's a nice guy. He's had a lot to say about me, so I'd love to see him say that to me in the cage.
Oh my goodness. This guy is the ultimate clown. The ultimate clown. He wanted Wonderboy Thompson. He wanted Wonderboy Thompson. I mean, does it get any more embarrassing than that? And not only that, you look at this, he was asked, oh, do you want to fight Shavkat? Shavkat's a contender now. What about Shavkat? He just beat Wonderboy. What about Shavkat? This was his answer. I mean, you could tell he was ducking a mile away.
So, you know, it just shows how good I am and what I'm capable of. So anybody the UFC wants to do, you know, but, you know, I'm looking towards Wonderboy. He said some things, and I have my bad taste in my mouth about him right now. So I want to settle that beef in the octagon.
So Wonderboy, I could tell the confidence was not there. This dude does not want to fight any people or any fighters who are under 40 years old on winning streaks. He does not want it. And I broke this down from the very beginning. I have an entire video on this literally the day after the fight. The guy's an ultimate clown. Then he goes on submissive radio. We call him submissive radio because basically they're just dick suckers of certain fighters to get access to them, which I understand. You need to be, you know, a certain way of a, you know, sycophant to be able to get certain interviews because fighters are super sensitive. But Submissive Radio, and I'll link their interview down in the description, did a slew of Colby Covington interviews since 296. I believe this was the first one after 296, but I might be wrong. I'll link all the videos I used down in the description. But this is what Colby had to say on Submissive Radio.
On earth right now. So whatever the UFC deems necessary. There's a lot of options, boy. We got Gilbert coming up, that fat lesbian, just like Connor said. He's coming up in March if he beats that
One of Colby's only funny lines, but it's not even his line because Connor said it.
other kid that he's fighting, whatever the scrub's name is, then that's a possibility. I think Wonder Boy guys make the most sense. The ultimate nice guy versus the ultimate bad guy. He's came on this show, Submission Radio, and had a lot of things to say. Oh, Colby's going to get knock out Colby. Oh, all these things.
I mean, dude's begging for a Wonder Boy fight. Embarrassing. I don't want to spend too much time on this. But then we get into the Colby Covington boat call out where everyone was like, oh, Colby's so funny. Colby's so hilarious. Oh, my God, what a great call out of Gary. Oh, he made fun of his wife. He called his wife a whore and this and that. And this was Colby's version of a call out that I called a pathetic call out because it wasn't a real call out. It was setting unrealistic stipulations so he could get attention from the fans while not actually having to fight Gary, because then he could claim that Gary ducked him. That is what was going on here. And I know it's easy to say now, hindsight's 2020. I said this in real time as it was happening. I was saying, look, he's just ducking him. There was people saying, oh, Gary got destroyed by Colby, and Colby's promoting the fight, and it's definitely going to happen now, and it's going to be so great. Whether you're a fan of Gary, whether you're a fan of Colby, whether you just hate Gary and want to see him lose, or you hate Colby and want to see him lose, this was the fight to make. This was the fight that could save Colby's career. But instead, he actively ducked it with these stipulations. I knew this was bullshit right from the jump. Let's listen to a little bit of it. I'm not going to be able to stomach the entire thing. It's chopped up. It's a 2-minute video. It's chopped up in 30 different, pieces because he can't get a full sentence out because it's all scripted from some hobo hanging outside a Family Dollar asking for a fug.
If you can meet these 3 stipulations, we got to fight. Stipulation number 1, you and that gold-digging whore got to turn your Instagram comments back on. And if you...
The Colby incels were like, oh, sick burn, Colby. That gold-digging whore. Oh, sick, Colby. You really got him. Fight him. Fight him, you pussy. This guy's a pussy. He did not want to... He was scared of Gary. And I can't wait because Gary breaks it down perfectly in the MMA Hour interview that we're going to take a look at. He absolutely breaks Colby down to a T.
Turn them off before the fight, you forfeit the fight. If you turn them off during fight week or after I beat your ass, you forfeit your purse. Stipulation number 2. Ian, we've heard you cry and beg on your knees, but we all know that you're not the boss and you don't wear the pants in the relationship. Layla, you got 60 seconds to convince me and the people why this fight needs to happen. So put your husband in the corner, get on your hands and knees, and beg. Now for stipulation number 3, my personal favorite. As you all might have noticed, something's been missing from my MyBookie promos lately. That's because I've been saving that spot for a special someone. Layla, you want to be a star? You want the spotlight? I got it for you, sweetie. You want your 15 seconds of fame, Layla? I'll give you your 15 seconds of fame right here.
Okay, so anyway, it's 3 unrealistic stipulations. One, I guess, the comments is not that unrealistic. But the rest of it, you're going to post a video of your wife begging me, and you're going to have your wife star in a commercial with me. Just totally unrealistic. It was his way of ducking him. Now, there was more that went on. Gary responded, and I've covered this in other videos, so I don't want to get into that because I really just want to get to the MMA Hour interview. But in the meantime, Gary was responding, and we're going to look at his Twitter. I want to retire you from the UFC. Called him out at UFC 298 in February, okay? And justice will be served at Colby Covington. And then sign the contract today, Junior. Stumbling over as I'm stumbling over it like Colby. Then, I think you mean featured bout. Officially the co-main event 303 per the UFC. Was talking about Jamal Hill, whatever, versus Khalil Roundtree. And then something ain't right. And then here's a message that he sent Colby. Let me actually make sure this is coming up on the screen. There's a message that he sent Colby. Stop being a pussy. Your foot is fine. Agree to fight. You ain't all that talk all that shit and not back it up. You coward. When Colby Covington finally signs the contract, missing person, Colby Covington, let's fucking see it. You see it time and time again. Gary was ready to take this fight. And again, whether you like Gary, you like Colby, this was the fight to make. This was the only way that Colby could earn some fans back. He could talk shit on Gary. The fans would enjoy the build-up. And if Colby got a win, a lot of people would forget that performance at 296. And instead, he ducks it and he's begging for a Wonder Boy fight. He might even beg for MVP if he loses to Gary this Saturday. Then next, Submissive Radio yet again. We're going to listen to 2 more clips from Submissive Radio before we get into the actual interview from the MMA Hour. But this is Colby on the Submissive Radio about a month ago. I believe it was a month ago when there was still some speculation of what's going on. Are you not fighting him? I don't think the MVP fight was official yet. because I think this was like early May, actually. So a little, like a month and a half ago at this point. So I think this was before MVP got announced. But anyway, just listen to it.
No, I didn't see that. You know, no one. The thing is no one cares about the kid. He's irrelevant. He doesn't have any high profile wins, guys. Like,
he's irrelevant. Ian Machado Garry's irrelevant. Let's look at Colby. People talk about Colby as some big draw, some big star. Oh, he's a mega star. He against Jorge Masvidal, who's a bigger draw than him, they sold under 400,000 pay-per-view buys. He has never been a draw ever in the UFC. Maybe does better than some of the low-level pay-per-view sellers, like a flyweight title fight. Maybe does better than that, of course. But in no way, shape, or form was he a draw. And then people would say, well, he draws on social media. He ruined his career. Let's look at social media. Okay, let's look at YouTube views. Because he used to do like 100K, 200K, maybe even more than that for some interviews. Look at this. 34,000 views for his interview 1 month ago. 34,000 views. At this point, I'm a bigger draw on YouTube than Colby Covington in some instances. Let's go down. 71,000 views. Not very good for a guy who I mean, think about this. If people aren't consuming you for free, you think anyone's going to spend $85 for Colby Covington in a pay-per-view, especially not in a main event anymore? But they would have for a great build-up against Garry. He ruined his career not taking this fight. And then look, when he was making all those excuses post-UFC 296, 40K. 40K views. Right after 296, people didn't care. Let's see if we can find one from before 296. Look, 187K. I mean, that's not great, but it's way better than 40K because he makes nothing but excuses. That's all he does is make excuses. I mean, this guy is just an excuse machine. Let's listen to a little bit more here.
He does nothing for my career. Why would I fight a guy like this? I go out there and beat this guy. Everybody's just going to be like, oh, he's a freaking nobody. There's local jobbers on the independent circuit that are undefeated. So
just making excuses. Just making excuses. He does not want this fight. He would never take this fight in a million years. And he just embarrasses himself. We'll listen to a little bit more before we get into the MMA hour.
Oh, big deal. You took his O. He hasn't beat anybody. He's a nobody. So it's just the fight does nothing for my career. I can fight anybody. I'm going to get a big paycheck either way, guys. So it doesn't matter if I fight this schmuck or some other schmuck. But either way, I preferably like to go forward.
So there, he's saying, I want people ahead of me, but he'll never say Shavkat's name. He wouldn't say Bilal's name for the longest time. Recently said it now that Bilal's in a title shot. This guy is a clown, absolute clown. And we'll listen to one more clip here, actually.
Just wasted a whole training camp. Like, he's not serious about business. All he had to do was turn on the comments, show he was serious about business and do these stipulations, but he's not. So, the ship sailed and I'll fight whoever I want to fight when I want to fight.
AKA, I'm going to beg for the Wonderboy fight. That's what he's saying. I'm going to beg for Wonderboy. I'm going to beg for a favorable matchup because my confidence is completely shot. And I will refuse to fight the undefeated top 10 prospect in Ian Machado Garry. Now, luckily, Garry realized everything in real time, just as I did, and he calls him out brutally on the MMA Hour. Listen to this. First off, actually, he's talking about how he didn't necessarily want to fight MVP. I thought this was interesting, so I would include this in the video. So he talks about, I wanted to fight ahead of me. Because I want to show you guys, I know Colby's kind of said, I wanted to fight ahead of me. I want to fight ahead of me. But he doesn't want, he's turned down fight after fight of top contender in the past. He doesn't, people asked him if he wanted to fight Shavkat. He said, no, Shavkat should fight for the title. That's what he said, I think, at the post-fight presser as well as ducking it for Wonderboy. Listen to the contrast between Colby and Garry, because Garry wants to fight all those guys. He wants to fight Jack Della Maddalena. He wants to fight Shavkat. He wants to fight Usman. And he wants to earn his title shot, which he said in the past. So I figured I'd include this. We'll check this out.
I'm looking at the guys above me. I'm looking at, again, there's 6, 7 guys ahead of me. There's Dilbert, there's Shavkat, there's Jack Della Maddalena,
It sounded like he said Dilbert there.
Colby, there's Usman, Bilal, and Leon. Because all I've done in my career is win, I deserve to fight one of those guys. I have to fight one of those guys because that is my projection. I'm on a projection to be.
So there you go. Okay, he's like, oh, I only want to fight guys in front of me, which I know some people might criticize, right? I respect it because he wants to fight Shavkat, Usman, Bilal, Leon, all those guys. But what's even better, and the reason I wanted to highlight this clip is because listen to what he says right after. This is only like 20 seconds later. This is almost in the same breath. Listen to what he says here. This is a true fighter. I know people may say Garry's cringy. I know people may not like the way Garry kind of rides Conor McGregor and it's Conor McGregor clone and whatnot. Listen to this right here. I love this mindset. I love this out of a fighter. Listen to this. This is right after. This is in the same breath where he's saying, I only want to fight guys ahead of me. Listen to what he has to say here.
When I get that belt wrapped around my waist, I'm going to be fighting whoever. the people believe is the next best guy worthy of that title shot. Whether he's 1, whether he's 2, whether he's 6, whether he's 9 in the world. And I want to put on them shows. So this is the first time I'm stepping into an octagon with that championship mentality of, I am better than you, I'm going to prove it.
So he's saying, even though I would have preferred to fight guys ahead of me, I plan on being the champion eventually. I plan on being ahead of everyone. And I'll fight guys below me to defend my title. So you know what? Why not fight the number 12 or 13 or 14 guy in MVP? I absolutely love it. Colby Covington would never do that. He would have ducked defending his title. If he would have won against Leon Edwards, who knows who he would have tried to fight? He would have tried to fight Dustin Poirier. He would have embarrassed the welterweight title. Thank God he didn't win at UFC 296. Now, in this next part is when he really starts to destroy Colby. Absolutely eviscerates Colby and calls him out for exactly what he's been doing this entire time. And I absolutely loved it.
Because I was so excited, so buzzing to get that Colby fight, to get Colby to have the ability to punch his mouth in, to shut him up, to really just dog walk him, like go out there and just destroy him in every way, shape, and form. But he ran, and he said no, and it was hard to...
So there you go. Colby Covington ran. I was excited to make him pay for what he said because Gary's not scared of a challenge. People are saying, oh, well, Gary's wrestling hasn't been tested. People haven't watched his Cage Warrior fights because he's been grappling outside the UFC. But still, it'd be nice to see him tested against a high-level wrestler like Colby Covington who has a great gas tank. He wanted to fight him, and Colby Covington ran and said no. And that's not where he breaks him down to a T. It gets even worse here. He starts absolutely destroying him and calling him out for exactly what was going on this entire time.
Like, to the best of my knowledge, I'll send you the email.
Okay.
I was offered the fight. I was offered it on June 29, UFC 303, Ian Machado Garry versus Colby Covington. I responded back to that and said, yes, I had multiple calls with the UFC, multiple back and forths with the UFC about why it hasn't been accepted, why it hasn't been pushed, why it's not happening.
Because Colby Covington was scared.
I was on the phone so much to them because I knew that fight was the one I wanted. And I will push the fight I know I want. At the end of the day, I can't make a man step into the octagon with me if he's scared of him.
I've been saying it since months ago. Colby Covington was scared of Gary. And even if you hate Gary's guts, you should be pissed at Colby. You would be enjoying the build-up right now. You would be hoping that Colby somehow pulls off the victory. UFC 303 would be so much more fun if you had that matchup and that bad blood. And Ian Machado Garry wanted to give it to you. Colby Covington ran like a little bitch. And thank God Gary's calling him out. And he calls him out even more here. Ariel asks him, is this the fight you're still going to push for? And Gary starts to get on the right track, and then he says, you know what, I really do want to fight him at some point. But I think Gary's right here. You'll hear what Gary says. I think he's 100% right here, and I'll break it down in a second.
I will never say I'm done with it because that man's talked too much shit to not step in that octagon and go out there and destroy him because he deserves to get the head slapped off him. However, I don't know if I want to give relevance to his name.
I want the Gary Colby fight, but at this point, and Gary actually says this in a minute, Gary's already won. Give him the win. Colby ran for his life. And if Gary goes out there and gets a statement win against MVP, he should look forward to a Jack Della Maddalena. He should look forward to a Shavkat Rakhmonov. He should look forward to a potential Leon Edwards if he loses the belt, or Bilal Muhammad coming off a loss, or a Kamaru Usman. He should look forward to those matchups and just let Colby die off. His career is dying. Nobody cares about him anymore. He doesn't have an exciting fight style. Let him die off. Don't give him that relevancy anymore. He's going to beg for Wonder Boy. Maybe his fans will get behind that. I doubt it. But to be honest, nobody wants to see that, I don't think.
I don't know sitting here right now if I ever believe he will accept the fight with me. I think Colby Covington looks at me and I think he sees the end of his career. A young, talented prospect, super sharp, super fast, super smart. And
how long have I been telling you guys this? Colby Covington doesn't have the confidence. He was hoping to get fans by snatching that low-hanging fruit that was the Gary hate. That's what he was looking to do. He's scared to fight Gary. He put those stipulations out there so he could be like, Gary ducked me. And then he's like, oh, I was injured and I'm not healthy and I'll fight who I want when I want. I'm a draw and this and that. I call the shots. I don't think Colby will ever fight him.
And different to anyone else who's ever fought. That's scary when you're on the latter end of your career and you're just trying to stay relevant and beat people who aren't going to be world champions and aren't going to be the best. So I think he's going to look for other easier opponents. And I don't see a world where Colby ever fights me. But if he wants to, then by all means, back it up, because you've talked too much shit to not get in that octagon.
Colby only wants lesser matchups that he perceives as winnable fights, because he only looks for undeserved title shots. And then outside of that, he looks for guys who are close to 40 on losing streaks. Colby Covington's entire career is predicated on the biggest accomplishment, which is losing to Kamaru Usman in a competitive fight, or 2 competitive fights. That is Colby Covington's entire career. While Ian Garry wants to fight Shavkat, he wants to fight Jack Della Maddalena, he wants to fight Usman, apparently accepted 3 or 4 fights for 303. I don't know if those were those particular matchups. I think one was Sean Brady. He wants to fight those matchups because he's confident. Colby Covington has been a consistent ducker throughout his career. And what Garry says here is 100% true. I don't know if he'll ever step in the cage with me, but I think Garry should just move on. I think he should never mention Colby again. Why I wanted to see the fight, at this point, let Colby fade until irrelevancy. Because he won't fight Shavkat. He won't fight Bilal. He's turned down Bilal. He turned down Leon before Leon was champion. He turned down Hamzat. He's been ducking everyone under the sun for years while sitting in witness protection, praying for a title shot based on his Dana White privilege. And I'm so happy Gary's calling him out. The last clip we're going to take a look at, Garry just calls him out even more and says, look, I already won. Mark it down on his Tapology. Mark it down on his record. Mark it down on his Wikipedia. Ian Machado Garry brutally TKO'd Colby Covington. Made him shit his pants because he was scared to lose. I'm telling you right now, I'm not kidding. This doesn't come from a place of bias. Colby Covington was terrified to step in there with Garry because, like Garry said, he's thinking I'm at the tail end of my career. And if I step in here with this young guy who people don't like and I've been talking all this trash about and he makes me eat my words, where do I go from there? Oh, I guess you can beg for a Wonderboy fight then. And it disgusts me because he'll probably get that Wonderboy fight. But let's listen to this last clip.
They said that at first it was we can't get a medical. Then it was...
Also, the question here was, what was the reason that Colby... what was the reason you were given for why Colby didn't want to fight you?
Oh, he's fine. He wants to fight. I'm talking about I'll fight. But then he's not accepting it. So the truth is, I just think he's avoiding it. I don't think there's any one say. He's just avoiding the fight because he knows Ian Garry's too dangerous for me to step into the octagon with. I'll try.
He is avoiding it. By the way, he kind of backtracked, but I showed it in a recent video where he was saying he would step in for Michael Chandler and fight Conor McGregor if the UFC needed him to. And then he was like, oh, well, I'm injured, but for that fight, I would.
And find someone else.
Okay. I understand.
But that's what happens, Ariel. That's what happens when you have these confident people who think they can back it up, but you give them the opportunity to stand in that octagon with you, and they go, actually, I do know this kid's better than me, and I do know if I step in the octagon what's going to happen. And that's where the truth comes out. And to be honest, it's like I've already won the fight, if that makes sense.
He did. Because all Colby wanted to do was be an internet troll. All he did was talk all that shit, and Ian Machado Garry brutally exposed him here for being a bitch and being a pussy and being a beta male soy boy, as Colby likes to say. Because at the end of the day, and I've said this so many times throughout this video, whether you like Colby, you hate Colby, you like Garry, you hate Garry, you wanted to see this fight. And Colby ran from this fight. There's no if, and, or buts about it. Colby ran from this fight. And when you look at this fight, and you look at the division right now, this was the best fight for Colby Covington's career if he could win. It was the most high-profile fight he could get. It was a fight that was going to draw a lot of interest. And if he won it, he would win back a lot of fans. So when you take all that into account, why would he not fight Garry? Why would he say, oh, this guy does nothing for me? The reason is because he knew he was going to lose. He was terrified of stepping in there because he thought he was going to lose. And this breakdown and analysis of this entire situation has nothing to do with Colby Covington's perceived political beliefs. No, all the evidence points to this, and I was breaking this down months ago, and here we are at UFC 303, and it's Ian Machado Garry versus Michael Venom Page, because Colby Covington did not want the smoke and is an absolute embarrassment, and he borderline ruined UFC 303. I don't want to say it's ruined because it's a much better card now that McGregor and Chandler is off. It's still a decent card, but imagine the excitement that would have been Garry versus Covington. It would have been a nice build-up. It would have been a fun press conference. People would have been like, oh, yeah, Colby's going to call his wife a whore at the press conference. But instead, it's not happening because of Colby's doing. So even if you're a fan of him, you should be pissed off at Colby Covington for ducking this fight. Let him fade into irrelevancy. He's only getting 30K views on YouTube anyway. He's not a pay-per-view star. He's never been a pay-per-view star. And he ducked Garry. So let's dance on his grave a little bit. It's UFC 303 fight week. And instead, we don't have this fight that would have a lot of animosity that we could enjoy the build-up for. I'm not necessarily going to enjoy it that much. I would be more looking forward to the fight. But for you guys, you should be pissed at Colby Covington for ducking Garry badly. Garry exposed him badly. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.